So JD, can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the Atlanta sound and how that influences even the work that you've done for a lot of East Coast and West Coast hip hop acts? Because a lot of people forget that you have been that producer that's put a lot of work in for other artists outside of just the South.
Yeah. Um, I mean, well, I think the thing about what I've actually learned while watching here at the Essence Fest is that Southern music, whether it be from Texas, Atlanta, Louisiana, or wherever it is, we incorporate this bounce that still embodies dancing. And that's the thing. I think that we still want to dance and we still want to party in the South. So we always incorporate that into our music some kind of way. And I feel like that's why it's been on the run for so long, because a lot of other cities didn't think about that. Even like when New York is more or less like hardcore rap and it's not dancing. It's more or less the thought of it is about like Timberlands and baseball caps and just being hard, which is cool. But I also feel like when you start touching into other cities like a Louisiana or New Orleans, like here where we at, the people in the city they used to dancing. It's a thing. They got a line dance that they do. Every one of these cities, smaller places in the South, they all have a little dance or something that they do that has something to do with like dancing. So if you have a song that has some kind of incorporation of that in it, the longevity of rap seems like it's a little bit longer, right? And that's I feel like that's the thing. Like when I was watching last night, trying to figure that out, watching like when Bone Crusher came on stage with the BDP situation. If you were a hip hop lover like myself, then you was going crazy when BDP came out. But then when Bone Crusher came on stage, the entire stadium stood up, right? And I'm like, wow, that's KRS-One, right? And it almost felt like half of the people didn't know who KRS-One was, but they knew who Bone Crusher was. And I'm like, that don't make sense. So I just really, really just like analyzed it last night. It's just about this. Like, people just want to dance and have fun. And if you have records that have more of that in it, I feel like that's the ones that seem to have this lead on the run. I think that's why that's all Hammer was about. Look how many records MC Hammer sold.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of longevity, So So Def is celebrating 30 years. First of all, congratulations on that. Well earned, well deserved. Can you talk a little bit about the legacy of So So Def and what it means to still be here 30 years later in a situation where sometimes hip hop artists don't have that time in the industry? What does that mean to you to still be here and to still be making hits?
Everything. I think that's my greatest attribute to everything that I've done, is to be able to understand longevity and understand how to pivot from one thing to the next. And like I said, if people watch my career, you can see that from the beginning. Like I started with Criss Cross and I went to Escape, and I kind of kept that same pivot going so that I wouldn't feel like I was boxing myself in. And then I might go on these long runs with a whole bunch of R&B, and then people in hip hop, they forget, like, that's the same Jermaine Dupri that was making these records that y'all was dancing to, but y'all ain't heard them in this space before in a long time. Y'all keep hearing them in this space. So, and I think that's a lot of times what happens. I go hide in different spaces as far as hip hop and R&B, and then people start thinking like I'm done, and then they hear Ari Lennox and they like, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I feel like that's one of my superpowers, is the understanding and knowing how to do that.
Absolutely. Last question, JD. With hip hop turning 50, what would you say is your greatest contribution to the movement, the genre, the way of life that is hip hop?
I'm basically the leader of the new school. I created the space for young people to rap. Criss Cross was 11 and 12. Bow Wow was 12 years old. When y'all first saw Lotto, she was 15. When y'all first seen J.I., he was 14. And all of these things are things that I created basically for younger artists to be, Escape, they was teenagers. The Brat was 16. My entire label, So So Def, was labeled as the youngest label in music. at a time, and we couldn't. They wouldn't even let us perform at Essence Fest because they felt like my artist was too young for the demo, right? Like Escape. I remember when I put out their second, I want to say their second album. We got resistance from a lot of places where I wanted the ladies to be at. And that's why I started moving towards songs like Who Can I Run To and stuff like that, because I wanted, they should have been a part of this stuff, but we was young and we didn't know. And that's it. I'm the leader of the new school.
Absolutely.